actors don't want to be talked at, they want to do. So I need to not talk all the time so that they can do and feel as though they're bringing everything to their character performance.
Hello, and welcome again to Voice Acting Unplugged. It's me, it's Anthony, and I'm here with my incredible co-host, the multi-talented, impossible to ignore, Margaret Ashley.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Anthony.
You're very
I'm not
welcome.
quite sure how you're going to react to me on this, but I am delighted to be with my ever stoical, because he has to put up with me, Anthony Rudd.
It's not that difficult.
And as you know, in Voice Acting Unplugged, we like to delve into all different areas of the voice acting industry. And today, we're going into the gaming industry once again, working with a voice director. He's also been in the past, and probably still is, because I know you are, an actor. And, well, you can tell us all about it yourself in a minute. We are joined by the voice director of the amazing Baldur's Gate 3 and various other video games, and he's going to chat to us all things video game. Welcome, Thomas Mitchells.
Good morning, both. Hello.
Hi, Thomas. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. A little sleepy after a drive back from Devon, but other than that, I'm fine.
Very nice.
You mean you've had a holiday?
I had a holiday and then a break to Devon. Who do I think I am? I know.
A holiday and
Fabulous
a break.
stuff.
Wow, yeah.
Now, you
Right.
also are apparently the voice that's appearing as Dino in the dinosaur that pooped a rock show. UK.
Dino, yeah.
Dino, sorry.
Occam's razor approach to pronunciation there. Yes, I am. I am the voice of a dinosaur with IBS currently touring the UK.
Fabulous. So did
Yeah.
you start as a theatre actor, or did you start as a voice actor, or where did your beginnings happen?
Well, my real grassroots beginnings actually started as a singer out abroad. So I did sort of like cabaret, singing in hotels and bars. I did that when I was, still a fresh-faced teenager at that point. And then I just, through pursuing of different types of shows that I was doing, I actually at one point was a Blues Brothers tribute act.
Oh,
with
wow,
one of the guys.
fabulous.
Yeah. And that's sort of what made me go, do you know what, I think I would like to pursue acting and being a character as opposed to just being myself and singing. So I pursued that, and that's what led to a theatrical career, where I ended up in various UK tours. And just through happenstance, when I had my first agent, I actually ended up getting a tape as a singer, just a tape for this project, completely NDA'd. I didn't know what it was. And it was for Guitar Hero Live in the end,
right.
which ended up being my first video game credit. And that was where I was thrown into a room, about 35 other people, back in Theatre 1 in Shepperton Studios, if you remember when that existed.
Yeah.
And yeah, just basically doing reams and reams of ADR. And that was when I realised, this is a line of work. This is an industry. This is like people who are paid to do this on the regular. I want to get involved in this. And that's what led to the snowball effect of working in video games specifically, and I've been hooked ever since.
Fabulous stuff.
Yeah.
So you do voiceover on video games as well as other things as well. How did you get involved into directing video games?
A lot of luck. It was all through circumstance and just, doing that thing of saying yes. I was approached, I think it was the beginning of 2020, I was approached to apply for this position as a voice director. And then as I applied, it was a weird serendipity. The world ended with COVID and everything shut shop. I was on a theatre tour, that finished. So I was kind of cruising through lockdown, mainly with bottles of Merlot. But weren't we all? Exactly. But I was drumming for something to come along to kind of, keep me busy and stuff. And I think it was about 7-8 months after I had applied for this position, I then got a response from the studio going, ever so sorry that we've been completely dark. We didn't know if we were going to be able to continue working. then those recording studio protocols came in place, which meant that they could actually start their recruitment process again, to which they had a meeting with me, and they said, right, are you all NDA'd up? And I said, yes, I am. And they said, great, we're interested in having you as a director on Baldur's Gate 3. And I went, great, lovely. I had no idea what it was. I didn't know. Not a clue. I didn't understand the severity of that credit. But fortunately, because I am a gamer myself, and I appreciate the way you can tell stories in video games, and at that point I'd had a few credits under my belt, so I understood the studio etiquette. I managed to blag my way through and get myself involved in the dialogue recording team on Baldur's Gate 3. And then
Fabulous.
Because I was so lucky, this is why luck was the important part, I was working on the early access portion of the game. So, the demo release of the game that was going to require a lot of player feedback. And because I'd worked on the early access portion, even though I'd kind of got my way through the door just before it closed, Indiana Jones style, grabbed my hat and everything, I was able to publicise my involvement. I wasn't allowed to say specifically what I was doing, but I could talk about the project as a whole and my involvement with that, which then led to this snowball effect of being invited to work on a myriad of projects ever since. I think now I've directed nearly 40 credits. I've nearly 40 different
presumably titles. You'd worked with these guys for some time before they offered you a director's job.
I'd only did a voiceover job for them once, and it was an hour long, and it was about 6 months prior. So again, it was all just through luck and circumstance. And
just curious, what do you think it was that made them ask you, since you'd had no directing experience, to get involved in voice directing?
I think it was through the way I talk about my experience within the video game industry and as an actor. And if there's one thing that I learned through being a theatre performer, I knew the right and wrong ways to deal with actors. I've had some very, very negative experiences with directors in the past, and I'd always sort of gone with the mindset of, if I was in that position, could I find ways of communicating with people, communicating with actors, communicating with the wider team in a way that treats the work we do as a positive, safe environment, as opposed to cracking whips and raising voices and using aggression tactics to get the job done. And
things have changed.
Lo and behold, you can.
Great.
Much better way to do it.
Yeah, and the studio I worked for at the time, they'd always instilled that they wanted a positive atmosphere and reinforce the idea of safety and actors first, and that's something I've always believed in, which was then something that could allow me to hone in on my style of directing with people, because sometimes you are working on stuff that is very intense, be that subject material or just vocally, so you always want to make sure that everyone feels like they're working towards the same objective
I'm quite surprised to hear that there are directors out there who are aggressive in their style without naming names. Is that common?
Not so much this industry. No, I've never experienced it in the voiceover audio. I've never experienced it there, but in the theatre industry, it's one of the reasons why I packed it in. It's just...
it's changed. I mean, I can speak from experience as well. I've been doing it a lot longer than you. And it was a lot worse much earlier on, and especially for women. But I spoke out. But there is a big difference. Not so much now, but there was a huge difference in the attitude and just the feel of being in theatre as to being in voiceover. Voiceover is just so gentle and kind, and everybody's willing to share. And on that note, Baldur's Gate was massive. Had lots of different directors, huge number of voice actors. How on earth did you all coordinate if a different voice director was working with a different actor for you all to get the same result?
Well, it's all finding that common objective. I can't remember the total number of directors we had in the end, because not only did we have voice directors, we had performance directors as well. So we had people that were specializing in the movement of said motion capture, and then you had us who were treating everything more with emotion and voice-led direction. So every actor effectively had 2 directors at once. So the one thing that was paramount to that sort of world working was communication. You have to keep asking questions, you have to keep talking things through. With a game as massive as Baldur's Gate 3, that not only has its sort of golden path narrative, these very particular story beats that all happen no matter what you do, you have everything else around it as well. You have the world building NPCs, you have the side quests, you have the things that aren't relevant to that golden path, which means that there are moments you can sort of steer away from the feel of the golden path, but you still have to make sure it's justified within the realm of circumstance. A good example is when there's a part of the game after you go through the Shadow Cursed Lands, and it's sort of like the intermission between Act 2 and Act 3, where there's a circus that you can go to, and that was designed purely just to break everyone away from the really dark portion of the story, which made everything a bit lighter. There was daylight, and instead you had to solve a murder case. But yeah, it's through that common objective of making sure that everything's cohesive. You have to do things via communication. But by the end of production, when we were in sort of like the last year of production, we all knew what we were doing. And when we had to bring in a few extra directors just to kind of pick up the slack a bit, we were able to talk about specifically what Larian were after, but also we could directly communicate with Larian Studios as well. We had a hotline, if you like, of any burning questions. We made sure that we asked the people that were writing the game, so that we knew congruently what was necessary to be put in. Communication, incredibly important. That's how it worked.
Now,
I like that hotline and burning question.
Go on.
So that was just me putting. Sorry, that's why he's stoic. He has to put up with me.
I was just going to ask: is everything still done in studio now, or does anything happen recorded from home?
No, I'd say it's a bit of both. I think once everybody realised that remote hires are just as sufficient as in-studio hires, it has allowed a bit more of a level playing field in terms of recording studio production. I do think there is still a way to go with perfecting remote productions. Indie studios, indie game developers, they appreciate being able to find people who can work from their home studios that have decent broadcast quality studios. Ultimately, what you're doing is you're justifying whether the core team of people that are going to be handling audio, how much time are they going to be spending cleaning up all the audio to make sure it all sounds like it all comes from the same place. When you're doing remote hires, you have someone with potentially you've got one actor with an Aston Spirit, you've got someone with a Neumann U87, you've got someone with a Sennheiser, and they all have different vocal qualities, and someone somewhere has to make sure they all sound the same, and varying qualities of sound treatment within their studios. So someone might sound a bit too bassy, someone might sound a bit too tinny. They need to dive in and do all of that work. Doing remote hires as a result means that whilst they're saving costs on, like an outsourced studio and going in and all the bells and whistles are there, they are having to invest more time into their production pipeline in order to make sure it's all cleaned up at the end. But having said that, because accessibility is incredibly important these days, you find smaller studios are more than happy just to get involved with remote studio hires, because it's a way of, one, cutting the cost, because indie studios typically have a bit more of a tighter budget in comparison to, say, like the AAA, quadruple A games. Battlefield 6 won't go to remote home studios. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They want everything to be uniform and predictable, and easy. They want it to be simple. They want to feel as though they're hitting the red button and they're getting everything they want. Whereas, indie studios, because things are a bit more at times guerrilla, and you maybe have 5 people that are doing multiple jobs at once, then they'll accept remote hires and still get the final product that they're after.
Great.
Now, for those, this podcast is all about informing people. For those people who don't know what a video game director does, can you talk us through maybe a week in your life, how it starts, how involved you are, where you get started?
Yeah. So normally, much to my chagrin, oftentimes a director is sort of thrown into the mix towards the end of pre-production when everything's been ironed out and sorted and casted and everything. And cast, I should say, not casted. And
that's very American.
Yeah, it's horrible. I hate it. You can tell I work internationally. But yeah, so normally what happens is that I'll get an email or a call asking for my availability on a project. If I'm available, I'll accept it, all done, and then I'll be given what information is able to be released to me externally to the studio. So sometimes I'll get given the script, sometimes I'll get given just a pitch deck, as anything that explains what this video game is. And then what I'll often do is I'll spend a day just kind of prepping and having a look through everything that I've got my hands on. So we're talking character descriptions, audition tapes that were greenlit. If there's a pitch deck, I'll run through it just to understand the concept of the game and the feel that they're after, how they want the audience to feel, how they want, what the narrative design is. And then we just rock up to the studio and get started. There's not really that much of a ceremony before the beginning of a project. I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I've been able to have a pre-production meeting with the clients to ask my questions, or for them to, what I always say is give me the elevator pitch of your project, so I get a firm understanding, shorthand, what this game is about. And I like pre-production meetings because it means I build up rapport with the clients, because my job as a director is I have to build rapport with actors, but building rapport with clients is just as important to try and get that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet feel in a project. So if I'm lucky, I'll have the pre-production meeting and we'll chat things through, we'll iron out a few creases, and then we have the first person in, and then that's it. The brakes are off and we're trying to find where we can go with this actor. I try not to spend too much explaining details. I only give what's necessary, because actors don't want to be talked at, they want to do. So I need to not talk all the time so that they can do and feel as though they're bringing everything to their character performance. So I'll only give the bare bones, or sometimes I'll just get the client to parrot speak their elevator pitch to the player, because to the actor, so that again we're building up that relationship between, it's not just my voice the actor's going to hear, they're going to hear this disembodied voice internationally, wherever they may be from, who will be chiming in with their opinions. So you need that familiarity, so that opportunity to just get the client to speak to the actor directly is really vital to building that little relationship up. And then it's just about going through the material as efficiently and trying to find that dance, if you like, between the director and the actor. All actors are different, so typically in a first session with an actor, I'll be trying to keep tabs on the ways in which you communicate with the actors. Some actors like emotional notes, others like technical, others just like being given them the most clear and concise, a single verb is all they'll need sometimes, or pop culture references. They often work with other people. And so once you've figured out that side of things, you just let rip. You just go. You just keep going until the end of the session, and then you come back. But the director, a director, it's a funny one, because it's like, not only do we kind of manage the session in real time, we have to make sure we get everything recorded on time and that we're meeting our statistics and stats, because we have to meet with budgets and stuff. And so it's about managing that session in the right way. So if you've been talking in a session too long as an actor and the director goes, lovely, right, let's get to this, it's because you're talking too much and I've got another 1,000 words to record within this hour that I've been scheduled to meet our target. But also it's about, being able to make those quick decisions in, do we need to alter a line? Do we need to change things? Do we need to discuss the localization? Asking the clients immediately, and also actor welfare, just making sure that the actor's feeling safe and comfortable in the booth, being the executive decision maker in going, we'll take a break early if things are getting a bit too heavy, or if we're starting to feel as though the actor's getting tired in the booth vocally, we need to be the ones to make those quick decisions in deciding whether we maybe continue a session or give a break, or do we just leave it there for the day.
Just to explain that for people who don't know, some sessions can be very tiring because there's lots of shouting and yelling and they have to look after their voice, and generally that shouting will be at the end of a session. But there's obviously lots of people who are very keen to be in video games and don't know anything about it, so might not appreciate the fact that your voice does get tired.
It's not even just shouting or projecting. I've worked on projects where they're after very specific character voices and the actor has nailed it in the audition, but they've only done it via self-tape. So then without a live casting, you're not really getting a feel for how they are able to do that character voice in real time. Say if you're doing something a bit monstery, a bit creature-like, if you do it just in a self-tape and you're doing it remotely and you're not actually working with the actor through things, you don't know how often they're repeating a take in order to get the sound they're after that they're sending in an MP3, right? Whereas in a live audition, you get more of a feel for how the actor is approaching that voice and how quickly that voice tires them out. Because a lot of the times, if you're speaking like this for 4 hours, it's going to do something, right?
Yeah. You just have to pick that voice.
Right? So if you're speaking like that for 4 hours, there's always a likelihood that your voice is going to tire out, and we have to make those decisions because we want consistency and we can't have anything wavering. We can't have, a voice getting tired and it going less glottal to something a little bit more nasal. It all needs to sound the same. And so, there are procedures and steps that we take in order to do that, like limiting session times. Usually if we're doing something very characterful and otherworldly, you're looking at maybe 2 hours max. And always trying to get, if we can, always trying to get people in at the end of the week. But unfortunately, with scheduling and also how successful and amazing people are, we can only slot them in where we can. And then that's the other thing, is we have to be mindful that we're not affecting that actor's other work during that week. So if the only time we can get them in a studio is at a Tuesday at 9 till 11 and then they have to tootle over to their next studio session at 12 o'clock, I can't wreck their voice. I can't. It would be the worst thing in the world in order to affect the rest of that day for that actor. So we have to, you have to be really on the ball with knowing when to call it. And that's the job of the director, effectively, is just being that executive decision maker and going, right, that's it. Let's put a pin in it for there for today.
But an actor should also feel that they have the ability to say, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm being exhausted, my voice is sore, I really am very tired.
100%. And I tell every actor when we're doing something a bit high octane, don't be a hero, right? We're not going to penalise you for calling it. Just communicate with me all the time.
Newbies must be absolutely terrified of saying anything like that.
Yeah, because they feel like that's going to jeopardise their future. It won't.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be in a position where I've got an actor spitting up blood, right? No. That's just, I don't want that. And I have seen it for myself when I've stepped in to cover, or take the reins on some sessions of certain characters that had already been established, and I've just got these people screaming and ripping their throats out, and they're being booked in for 4 hours at a time, and I'm going, what is this management? Like, no, this is not good. And then being the one to sort of talk to the leadership of that scenario and go, can we please change this? Can we make this a safer environment? Because it is a safety standpoint. You don't want to be that session that could seriously impede an actor's career. You don't want that to happen.
No.
And so you're dealing with those people that are nervous, but also on the flip side of that, you deal with people that are super keen as well. And the amount of times I've had to remind people they don't need to rip their throat out in order to get the best performance. You can find other ways of showing that feeling, emotion, that grenade get down line without needing to really just destroy your vocal cords. So, I've worked with thousands of actors now, and, you do get a sense of why we want to do the best job we want to do as actors. We want to be able to show our best work, but they always have it in their mind that they have to sacrifice a little bit of themselves in order to get that best work. Whereas I'm the guy that goes, no, you don't need to do that. You can give your best work without hurting yourself, I promise.
Speaking of noobs, what would your advice be to young actors who are just out of college, really want to get into video games? What do they need to do?
Learn how to do a tax return.
Oh yes, business.
Learn how to do a tax return. That one. But also, I mean, just ingest media, ingest pop culture, experience lots of different genres and lots of different feels, because when we're in a bit of a bind and we need to kind of reference pop culture as a standpoint, it's great to have that knowledge. A lot of the Gen Zers, if you like, maybe don't know anything about Indiana Jones and Back to the Future and
Who? Sorry, what?
Platoon or those kind of things. But one thing I told this to a bunch of kids once, that when you're going into a studio and you're working with people that have cast you, more than likely you're working with people that are millennials and beyond, right? So they'll have a lot of film knowledge and a lot of past references that they use as shorthand and have used them for years and years and years. Understand that part of culture. Watch films and movies from 2008 to 1960s, just to get that nice swell and range of the different types of feels and genres and styles of acting that went through in cinematic media.
Or even earlier. If you're
even earlier,
sci-fi.
yeah. I mean, I ironically, it's funny. I used Casablanca as a reference once. But yeah, it's that level of knowledge that you can always learn, even when you leave drama school. And that doesn't mean going to classes. That doesn't mean parting ways with your money. It's just digest what's already out there to really gather an understanding of where the medium has shifted all these decades. And even though I say, and I've said this to a lot of people, you don't have to play games to be in them, but understanding some components of how do voices get implemented into video games, how does performance capture work, how does, why does a certain style of performance work for these NPCs that aren't interacting with the player? Why does that sit right? Why aren't they being more characterful? Why are they just being very understated and throwaway? And then why are these that were interacting with the player being a little bit more colourful and interesting? Ask those questions and deep dive more into the technical aspects of video games, because you work with people that are technically minded. Game developers are very technically minded and like to talk in a way that might be a little bit different to when you're in your blacks in the rehearsal studio. So getting that understanding and feel for that aspect and having a respect and an honour towards that style of storytelling will serve you greatly. So just digest, go through all that media. That's my biggest piece of advice. But tax return is the most important.
Fabulous.
And bear in mind, video games aren't all just shoot-'em-ups and war games and sci-fi. There's lots of baby things and animes and cartoony things. I mean, the creatures and characters I've been are not at all the big, shatty, yelly things. So you don't have to be all, I am a soldier of battle. You can be a seal or a caterpillar.
Yeah, there's a wide spectrum of video games out there, and that's why they're so enjoyable to work with, because every day's different. One day I could be working on, a massive orc ripping the head off of somebody to, like someone reading a little information card about fish, because it's a fishing simulator and they're telling you all about the Norwegian salmon. and
Done that. Yep.
They're so different, but I love it. It's great, and that's why I'm hooked on being a director. It's the variety, 100%. So there is no single silhouette when it comes to being an actor for video games. You have to be versatile and understand where that versatility comes from and why it's
Two other things. I saw on a forum the other day somebody who had only ever auditioned online, and she was a bit scared because she'd been asked to come in to audition, and she, what's the procedure, what's going to be different, why am I being asked to come in? I mean, I think you probably explained it earlier, but could you just maybe reiterate that, why they're being asked to come into studio to audition and what it's like?
Because if you've been asked to come in for a live audition, that's a really good thing, because one, it means they like you. It means they want you. That's what that means when you're being brought into a live casting, is we want to explore the character more with you in person in real time. So there is nothing better than a live audition for a voiceover gig, because you are in an environment that makes you feel like you are already doing the job. That's sort of the main crux of it. It already feels like you're doing the job and recording it for the video game already, which is brilliant, because that just puts a part of that mind of yours away in going, the anxieties of, I'm doing an audition, I need to do really well. It's designed in a way that you forget about that, because you're focusing solely on recording for this character. And it's so liberating for an actor, because oftentimes it's a workshop. So sometimes when you're brought into a live casting, the game developers maybe don't 100% know how they want their character to, what they want their character to sound like, how they want them to move. So you oftentimes get a couple of extra voices just throwing out a couple of different ideas just to see where you as the actor take that character, and exploring those boundaries of said character. And it's valuable, it's absolutely invaluable to the clients.
It's also an opportunity for you to get to meet everybody as well again.
Yeah, you meet people in person rather than just names in an email. It just there's I love holding live auditions when I can. Because it really is that thing of, you just make it feel like they've already got the job, and you get the best out of that person.
Yeah, sure.
And to just relax and explore, and even if they don't get that said role, they'll at least go away feeling like they've achieved something, or they've got a fulfillment out of that exercise. Which some people pay good money for that, whereas when you're brought in for a live audition, it should be, for an actor, incredibly validating to be invited, because that just means they like you, they want you, they just want to see how it works in real time in tandem with everything else.
And so the other part of that question is, you are there directing and presumably with the client online, disembodied voice. How much say do you have in casting that character?
I always give my notes when I can. There's been times where I don't get a say. I don't have agency, and it's more to the the client's making that final call. The clients usually always make the final call when it comes to these things. Whereas I, as part of the support for the casting team, I give my notes on everything. And that'll be things like, what I was getting from this particular character, I'd say the positive sides of those, the positive notes of the character. Why would this character not necessarily gel well with this character in terms of chemistry? If there's a bit of that, I'll also make a note of this, because sometimes it can just be down to we've got someone in. Oh God! I've lost my camera.
Just keep talking.
Whoa! That was an earthquake. We've got someone.
See, you're an actor. Just keep on going.
Yeah, we've got a character in their 20s, and we bring someone in their 50s who maybe in their self-tape sounded super convincing, and then the live casting is when we realise, okay, they probably spent 3 hours on that audition to make it sound like they were early 20s, and we confirm those anxieties, in that moment. But also it's down to things like directability. I'll make notes on things like how well actors take direction, how well they're retaining information. I give as much detail as I possibly can, just to help with the casting process for the client. This is an extra job that they need to do in order to find their characters, and they've got a million other things to do as well. Yeah. So anything I can do to breathe a bit of easiness into that process, I'll do it. But normally, I don't get the final say. I'd love to, but no.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. This has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. It's been great having you on, Thomas. Thank you so much. We've run out of time, sadly. Thank you very much for watching. We will put all of Thomas's details in at the bottom of the program, so that you can see where his website is and things like that, and look up the work that he's doing. And in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Yes,
no worries.
It's been wonderful to have you watching. Thank you, Thomas.
To everybody.
And
Great meeting you.
We'll catch you in the next episode. Feel free to make sure that you come back for the next one, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.